whatever's broke. So, but my buddy John usually helps me out in a pinch, and if he doesn't, my neighbor helps out too sometimes. So I'm surrounded by friends, and that's always a good thing. And I would have loved to have heard that conversation about open wireline. I'm sorry I missed it. I wonder if you recorded it, because if you did, I'm going to go listen to it. All right, I'll pass it over to Cliff, WB4NKL from K4QE.
K4QE, it's WB4NKL. Good evening to everybody. I've been over on 75, Steve, talking to a neighbor of yours, KG4NVZ, I believe it is. He's running a homebrew transmitter on 75. He's got a RCA on 160 that he converted, and he said it was tuned up on 1880 right now, so I told him to retune for 1864, so I was hoping maybe he would drop over. But he's there in Stanley, pretty close to you. I've worked him before, but it's been a while. And I got a call from Virgil, W4OLJ today, and he said our friend Greg that lives down in Newmarket there, and we hadn't heard him in a couple of weeks. He slipped and fell on his porch, on his mother's porch, and broke his leg and shoulder, and messed his knee up pretty bad. They sound like he's had several surgeries to repair the breaks, and then he's in a nursing home doing rehab there now, so he wanted Virgil to pass that along to everybody. So not much else going here today. I've been working on LMAX and got my walk in. That's about it. Go ahead, Brandon, W4GUZ, WB4NKL.
Whoa. That looks more better. Maybe. Had to hit both the transmitter and the tuner here. Good evening, everybody. Tony, Steve, Cliff. Yeah, I heard you up with Chad and what was his name? Stan. Anyway, I was listening in the background as I was finishing up my project that started before 8 o'clock this morning. And Cliff, I was zoned out there. I hope it wasn't Virgil you were talking about. I got the whole fail and rehab, but hopefully it wasn't him. So touch on that. 33 degrees here currently. Just about every bit of the snow melted. I don't know how. That's the highest I've seen it all day. But it was about 33.5 this morning, and it stayed cloudy all day. But once you get past that 32.0 mark, it seems to fade away pretty quickly. Still got a little bit lingering though. We got maybe an inch and a half or more, no less than an inch and a half. Supposed to warm up tomorrow, and tomorrow we get to cut firewood. I've got quite a few locust logs laying out here, so cut and bust and try not to knock my teeth out. I did get to the dentist to get that fixed. It was painless, thank goodness. Didn't even have to have a shot. Took about 30 minutes, but got that took care of. On the Globe King tonight, listening on Lee's S76. So I'll pass it on. I'll tell you what I've been polishing on today after, and I guess next go around. Tony, you're sounding good up this way. Cliff, I can always hear you. even if you didn't have a microphone, and the same with you, Steve. N4LQ, unless there's somebody else lurking in the dark out there. W4GZ.
I bet you're polishing a steam gauge. This is N4LQ. Does anybody else want to check in? Come now, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Whiskey Fox at 2 uniform.
I think you forgot me, Steve.
Yeah, that's you're next. Okay, sure did. I think that was Brandon. So I'm gonna blame Brandon on that one. Hello, Mir, and you'll come after John, and then back to me. W4JPL, go ahead.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. W4JPL here in Liberty, North Carolina. A lot of static crashes tonight, and I just looked on the lightning maps. It's all out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, I guess up the Gulf Stream. So it's a little crashy, but I hear everybody fine, and I heard Mir as well, so it's going to be a good night for that. 44 degrees here. Started my day off by the exercising, went to breakfast, came home and took a bunch of old paint over to a recycle center, and then did more house projects. So the exercise that I got at the exercise class, I got about 10 times more than that today. So busier than a one-arm paper hanger over here. WF2U and the group W4JPL.
Roger, W4JPL on the net. This is WF2U. Good evening, everybody. So far, signals are good. And just joined a little bit late. I had some stuff to do in the house. And what else? Using the usual GRC19. And what did I? Yeah, I had a nice day today. Nice morning. Herding practice. It was chilly early, but then as we got into the later hours of the morning, it was very pleasant. In fact, it was a little bit warm. Me having to move around, of course, in the field, and it was a good exercise. So, back to you, Steve. You sound good too. N4LQ, this is WF2U.
Yeah, sounding good, Mir. All right. Been herding sheep. Was it sheep or ducks?
Wednesday is my sheep day.
Wednesday the sheep. All right. That's a woolly operation. Well, let's see. Sheer delight. All right. Anybody else want to check in tonight?
KN4R.
KN4R. Hello, Brian. Go ahead and take it and give it back to me.
All right, Steve, very good. Good evening. N4LQ in the group, KN4R, Brian, Cheryl Ford. How are y'all doing? I just got in here. I heard last part of John's transmission, and then I heard Mir's. So good evening to you guys, and also you, Steve. And let's see. I meant for today to be a big radio day, but I ended up helping my brother-in-law. He's having some heart issues, and so and let's see. I'm trying to think. I did move some things around and all that, but nothing major accomplished. I'm trying to get a few things together for Orlando. So at least I'd like to break even, if nothing else. So back up to you, Steve. N4LQ in the group, KN4R.
All right, KN4R, N4LQ. Well, let's see if anybody else wants to check in. Go ahead. We're gathering a pretty good crowd tonight, and Very intelligent crowd, I may add. Let's see. First of all, Tony wanted to hear the open wire conversation. No, I did not video that. I just stumbled across the net. It was the weekly edition of the Mighty LMAC. Those guys are up in Michigan, and they're not easy to copy here. I switched over to one of the, Kiwi SDRs up in, it's way north of Detroit, way up there in central or upper Michigan, and they were all coming in pretty good up there. But most of them are over around Ohio and Illinois and Michigan, maybe a few in Indiana. And I think they had like, I don't know how many check. They have a lot of check-ins. And of course they'd like to have more LMACs, and fortunately I was running an LMAC, so I just fit right in. I could hear them all pretty well on that, and I turned on the amplifier and they were copying me okay, so they worked out pretty cool. And the network control guy, as soon as I checked in, he said, "Oh, I know you, met you at Shelby." I didn't recognize him at all. Let's see, what was his call? WA6GYC up in Michigan. Oh well, he knew me and had talked to me about in-fed half-wave antennas and seen videos and all that stuff. So I was already well known up there, I guess. And he was running an in-fed half-wave, and of course he had the best signal. Let's see, but the conversation was all over the map about, some of them don't like open wire line, or one guy said that's all I will use, and I don't like it because you can't lay it on the ground, and another guy said, well, I can use 2 coaxes and make my own open wire out of coaxes, just all kinds of cool stuff. But the coax thing has been debunked many times, and people think you can run 2 coaxes, hook the centers, and use the center conductor for your for your open wire line, and hook the shields together, and the shields won't have any effect. However, you still end up with the same amount of loss as you did with a piece of coax, so it doesn't really accomplish anything, except I guess you can run it through a wall, and people try to run it underground. I don't know. Nobody really knows what that does. So anyway, and Cliff, yeah, I heard you guys talking about Greg. That's let's see, KF4DRN, Kilowatt Foxtrot Ford Delta Radio Nancy. He's over in Newmarket, Tennessee. He's checked in a lot, and poor old guy, he lives in a camper, and he's by himself, I believe, and he takes care of his mother, who is nearby, and so now he's got a broken leg and a broken shoulder from falling, and now in a nursing home. I tell you, that's rough. You gotta be careful. But I hate to hear that, and I don't know there's any. I don't have an email for him or anything. So, and okay, on KG4NVZ in Stanley, I have not met him. KG4NVZ. He has got some major heavy iron stuff there. What a bunch of stuff. I'd like to see that sometime. I have to meet up with that guy. He needs to check into our nets, and so we can get to know him. And anyway, let's see. I'm ordering parts for the Grasshopper because I managed to knock the belt off again today, and that took several trips. The old man had to climb the hill several times with tools and stuff trying to get everything back together. That's what you get when you're trying to push big heavy logs around. Let's see, in the mail today was the Yellow Pages came in the mail. I thought, well, that's a welcome sign, the Yellow Pages. And the guy that was supposed to send me the VCR tape for the chicken fat operators, he did, and I've got the tape here and got my VCR out. It seems to be working, and I'm going to try to make a copy of the tape and put it up on YouTube so everybody can see it. I had to order a little adapter that takes the output from the VCR and converts it to USB. Cost me $12 on Amazon, and it's 1-day shipping. Go ahead, Tony, K4QE, N4LQ.
All right, Steve, very good. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that conversation about the open wire line. I'd have loved to have heard it. I'd like to run open wire line here, to be honest. Get rid of the spider web of antennas I got going on over here with this fan dipole. And I'd probably get a little better effective radiated power out of the antenna as well. So, but the challenge is getting the open wire line into my shack. So I'd like to figure that out, and I would have loved to have heard some ideas. I'm sorry to hear about the gentleman who suffered the broken legs there. That's wow. I worry for him, and I worry for his mother. I wonder who's taking care of her while he's in the hospital or in the hospice care or wherever he is right now. I can't imagine. That's when someone like that's dependent upon you, and then you end up getting hurt. That's a tough road to hoe. But I hope everything is going to work out okay. I hear everyone very well tonight. No problem copy. I do hear the static crashes that John was mentioning, and I saw those storms out in the Atlantic. I was wondering. I didn't see anything in the weather forecast that would indicate we were getting any sort of storm. So I was wondering where it came from, and I opened up the lightning maps, and there it was. But it's not doing any harm to you guys. I hear everyone very well. So one of the topics of discussion for tonight that I'd like to bring up is screen grid modulation. I wonder if any of you have much experience with it, and if you do, what rigs you either run it with or have run it with in the past. I'm not so interested in the control carrier modulation. I'm talking about strictly screen grid modulation. Boy, my mind's not working tonight. All right, over to you, Cliff. WB4NKL in the group from K4QE.
Kilo 3, Lima, Bravo.
Would you give your call again phonetically, please?
Hey, were you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not quite tuned up here. I thought I was. Kilo 3, Lima, Quebec, Bravo, K3LQB, over.
Roger, K3LQB. This is Steve, N4LQ, and I'm in Shelby, North Carolina. And we got you on the list here. And let me go down the list, and I'll give out the call signs that are now checked in. Now that was Tony, K4QE. He comes after me, and then WB4NKL, and then W4GUZ, W4JPL, and WF2U, and KN4R, and then K3LQB. You'll be last on the list right after KN4R, and then you can turn it back to me, and you can tell us all about yourself. So go ahead and take it, Cliff. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
That's WB4NKL, and good evening to the station that checked in, and to Brian and Amir and the others that's jumped in. Yeah, Brandon, that was, Virgil was just relaying the information about Greg down in New Market. And he's evidently missed the knee, the leg, broke leg was some knee injury too, and they had to do several surgeries there to get him patched up, sounded like. But that happened back during that snow ice storm we had a couple weeks ago, I guess. So that's the reason he hadn't been on the air. And I don't think he's got his phone with him, because Virgil said he tried to call him and never could get an answer. But Virgil knew his brother and got a hold of his brother and finally got a hold of Greg. But he's should be back. I think Greg's about 65, so he should be able to heal up from all that. Get back in business, I hope. Tony, the screen modulation works pretty well. Steve can elaborate on it more, but the DX60 that he runs and there's several more that's screen modulated, and they sound great. John, KZ4B, that Night Kit T150 runs is screen modulated. And I was trying to think of some more. A lot of the beginner, like Hallicrafters HT40 and some of those. And there was a big discussion on what the difference was between that and controlled carrier. But I think the Drakes use controlled carrier, and they just don't sound as good as the screen modulation. So that's about all I can say about that. It works pretty well if you get it set up right. So go ahead, Brandon. W4 GUCs, WB4 NKL.
Okay, Steve. Good evening, if I hadn't already said it. John, Mayor, and Brian, K3QB. Your name's not coming to my brain, but I know you. Well, good deal, Cliff. I was afraid, well, it doesn't matter, but I was afraid he was talking about OLJ, but nevertheless, man, that's awful. Sounds like he hopefully may have a brother close by or somebody to take care of his mother. And I was going to ask how old he was. That's about what I would have guessed, or maybe a little more. So his mother's lived a good long life, or she had him very early. Still lived a good life, hopefully. Anyway, John, I'm wondering if you're on the NC303. And Mary, you was talking about herding. I didn't know you had sheep. I've herded goats for several years. I wonder how you herd your ducks, whatever day of the week that is. But, and Brian, you're sounding good from Cheryl's Ford. I wonder if you've had any sailboats out on the lake pass by. I doubt there've been many out today. Tony, hope your wife is doing still doing well. You're sounding good up here. And Steve, I was listening earlier to the LMAC net, and I was hearing him fairly well here. Then I heard you chime in, and I tuned around, thought you were on 3885, and you weren't. I was trying to figure out who you was talking to, so I thought I was hearing pretty good, but whoever you were talking to, I could not hear. SDRs have their place, I guess. Let's see, I won't ramble on. Well, what I've done today, yeah, the steam gauge, took it apart, Cleaned it up best I could, and set up a fixture where I could calibrate it. I had 3 other modern pressure gauges in line. All 3 of them read differently, of course, within between the 3, 15 pounds. So, but got it oiled up, and then decided to wet sand, starting with 600 all the way up to 1,000, 2,000, 2,500 sandpaper, and then polished the big brass ring around it, and painted the case, or the rest of it. So it's going on the boat, hopefully. That was the one thing I wanted to do things. One thing I wanted to change was the pressure gauge. You had a plastic modern gauge on there that just wasn't correct. And then decided to take on a little Crosby 3-chime whistle that's going on the boat. It's just a little bitty thing, Cliff. It's a 2-inch, not a 6-inch. And not much noise comes out of it feeding it with a 1/2-inch hose. I'm sure it'd take a 1/2-inch, at least a 1/2-inch pipe, MPT pipe, to get enough air to it to make some racket. But I'm not even going to try it. I've got it cleaned up and ready to go on if spring can hurry up and get here. So looking forward to that immensely. Hadn't been on the water that much. Never really desired to own a boat. Realized with my new love of steam that I would never have a locomotive and couldn't afford a traction engine. So this is my cheapest way of, and a Stanley steamer. Yeah, I looked at those too. Ridiculous. Even though I think they could have kept going a couple more years back when internal combustion engines started coming along. I think the steam car could have made it if they'd kept with it. Anyway, over to you, John, W4JPL. I bet it's warmer down there. W4G's it.
Alrighty, W4GUZ and the group W4JPL. It's 43 degrees here. I don't know if you consider that to be warmer. Still cold. Yeah, not a lot going on here. I was just trolling around a little bit on Marketplace, and there's a gentleman who has a D104. He painted black. I didn't know they came black, but he painted it black. And it's got that little push-to-talk thingy on the bottom, and he'd like $174 for that. And what makes it worth that is he says the Element Spit fabric replaced with a commercial-grade, acid-resistant red felt really makes this microphone pop. So the guy thinks he's got $1 million sitting there. So hello, Larry. Hope you're doing all right. Nice to meet you, sir. I'll turn it down to Mr. Muir, WF2U, and the group W4JPL. And Brandon, I'm running 7610. I don't have the Dow key yet. I gotta find it. I got a box of Dow keys in there somewhere. Go ahead, Muir.
Thank you, John. W4JPL, and then that's WF2U. Very good. Looks, John, like you're interested in steam engines or something like that. I am also, but I'm admiring them from the distance because I can't afford anything. Probably even a decent model, just a stationary one. And I don't want to sell radios for a steam engine. But anyway, and welcome to K3LTV. The number is Nair Mike Echo India, and I'm actually near Landrum, South Carolina, and I'm at the northern end of Greenville, Kansas, running a 1950s military radio, the GRC-19, which comprises of a 195 transmitter, 100 watts out, and a R392 receiver, and that into an end-fed half-wave antenna for 160, about 45 feet. GUZ, about herding. No, I don't own any livestock. We had horses, but they were not herding. No, that's all. I compete in herding trials with my dogs, and I go to a farm in Bostic, North Carolina, not too far from, familiar with the area, not too far from Forest City, just the other side of Forest City. And my coach is, I've been working with her for just about almost 14 years. She's also a herding judge. So I'm not getting actual instruction. She's really coaching. She's just giving me pointers about just finding the work and in the competitive point of view. Then let's say she tells me, well, if you did that, you're going to lose the point, and if you do the other thing, you can get to the next obstacle, chore, much easier, and so on and so forth. My old dog, who is now 15 and still working, is a herding champion, and that was the hardest thing because I was new into herding when I started to train him, and so that he works with sheep. He has titles and with ducks, turkeys, and geese. And some of my dogs are not interested in ducks, so there's no point in it. So I worked in sheep. One is not interested in ducks, but he works very enthusiastically. And so that's my other hobby. Plus, it's a nice exercise too, both for me and the dogs. That's the story from this end. Let's see. Oh yeah, Steve, I wanted to tell you, I'm just putting up a T150 for you here. Putting it by the door, so when I'm leaving for the luncheon, I can just come into the shack and grab it and put it in the car. So that's the story here. So goes to Brian. Good to hear you too. KN4R and the group WF2U.
Okay, Mir, very good. WF2U and the old friends, 160 edition. This is Brian, KN4R, Sherrills Ford, North Carolina, and I'm running modern gear at the moment. IC 7610, ACOM 1000, and an end-fed half-wave. So very good on all. Let's see. I'm looking forward to the old friends luncheon down at the Golden Corral in Spartanburg tomorrow. And let's see, I've got Friday, I've got a fella, another ham passing through here on his way to Florida. That's Larry, W3LW, and He's a contributor to Electric Radio, and he stops by usually every year for a day or two, and we work on a couple of projects together, so that'll be fun. And let's see, tomorrow while I'm at the luncheon, my wife has an appliance repair guy coming, work on our 2 ovens again. On the first one, it had the controller board replaced recently, but it's still not holding temperature, so he's going to work on that one. And the other one, I sent off the controller board to be repaired at a service place out in Olathe, Kansas, and I got it back, and he's going to install it in the other oven. So wish me luck on that. Brandon, the lake is still a bit muddy here. I have not seen any wooden steamboats, but I'm hoping to see one in the near future. And so there you go, and open invitation. Let's see, last night I watched a great documentary. It's called Nazi Town. It's on PBS. It's free, and it's about the German-American Bund, B-U-N-D, the movement in the United States right before World War II. And probably the most, one of the most shocking parts of it was Charles Lindbergh was, he was kind of enthralled by the Germans, their military might early in the war, and they got a picture in the documentary of him doing the Nazi salute. So that kind of brought him down a couple notches in my eyes. And I know he really pissed off Roosevelt. That Roosevelt wouldn't let him get into the war in the military. Pearl Harbor happened, but he ended up in like 1944 out in the Pacific helping some of the P-38 units extend their mileage by throttling their gas. So he and the story is he shot down at least 1 0. So we'll see. But anyway, Nazi Town, take a look at it. It's really, really good. And that's enough for me. Over to you. And I think the name is Larry there. K3LQB in the group. KN4R.
Okay, KN4R in the group. K3 Lima, Quebec, Bravo, K3LQB. Name is Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, at Woodstock, Georgia. And I'm pretty disorganized here. I didn't realize I was breaking on a very large group. I thought there was just a couple stations, and therefore I did not get everyone's name, so I'm not going to try to, I'm going to embarrass myself here. The station that recognized me, M4LQ, I thought his name was Steve, but that is wrong. I think that was NKE, who was Steve. And LQ, you gave me your name, but I failed to get it down. Anyways, I'm back in 160. I've been off and on for years. This antenna I put up here is about 70 foot at the apex. It's more or less a flat top, about 55 feet in one end and about 50 feet in the other. And it looks pretty good. I don't know how well it sounds. I am running a Yaesu FT5000, driving Ameritron L1200 at 300 watts carrier. And that's it there. I also do operate a couple Rangers and a 7584, but it was much quicker to get on here with the newer stuff. So I won't hold it. Again, forgive me for not getting all the information, but I just didn't realize what I was breaking into here, and I tried to get some of the call. I got most of the calls, but didn't get the name, so I'm not gonna try to do that. I did a few signal reports. N4LQ was the strongest 5.9 plus 20. The station had just turned over to me. You were 5.9 plus 10. The station before you, WFTU, had a good carrier, but he was a little light in the audio, so I didn't copy everything he said. JTL was 4 to 5 S9. His signal was down here, but I think probably just due to distance or whatever. GUZ, before GUZ, was 10/9 here. My noise level was approximately, or was S78 It's at times S9 slightly over with occasional static crashes. So back to the original station here, N4LQ. Thank you for recognizing me. And sorry, did I get your name? This is K3LQB.
KO4S. That's what.
Okay, KO4SSY. Mr. Bill, got you down here, and you will be right after LQB, K3LQB, Larry. Well, it's good to have you, Larry, and you just didn't realize what you were getting into. We've talked to you before several times over the past few years. You've checked in here with us, but I think that's when we were using sideband, and so now we're AM. And you're welcome anytime, and there's a lot of people here with a lot of different names. So I am Steve, you got that part right, and the rest of us, you can just call us anything you want. Just be sure to call us for dinner. So Billy, go ahead and give us a transmission, and then you can turn her back to me. KO4SSY N4LQ.
Alrighty, Steve. Well, good evening, everybody. Running kind of tardy, but I've been working on something. Trying to get to where I can get back on old heavy gear on here. So, Cliff, I sent you a picture. After all this time, I finally tracked down that devil. I knew they had to have some jump somewhere on that Valiant. And that's one of the nicest Valiants. I don't think the thing has been redone. It may have, but it's one of the prettiest faces on one, if it's original, that I've ever seen. And I'm quite excited now. I've got it. Finally got it where I can put it on the air. So I'm gonna get me a receiver over here and get everything fixed with the TR switch. I'll be get to where I can get the Valiant on here. So that's the plan in the near future. Get a receiver over there in the hole and use that. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. I've been dealing with vertigo again today, and so I haven't felt the best and everything. So anyways, I get to church tonight because I sat around for a while, so I'm going to go up there and give it one more shot. And I drug out the other one and this one, flipped them up on their tops. Got to going through everything, and I finally found the devil. Anyways, should be good to go now. N4LQ, KO4SSY.
Okay, anybody else want to check in tonight? Give me a call, N4LQ.
November 4, Whiskey Delta.
And there's Bruce, N4WD. Go ahead and carry on, and then give it back to me, Bruce.
Okay, will do. N4WD is the group. Yeah, it's a little noisy for me tonight. Only about 2 or 3. Well, I could hear everybody and get them out of the noise, but that was about it. It wasn't like last night. The signals were way down, including you there, Steve. I think the loudest I heard was QB, but he's south of me, so I can understand that down there at Woodstock. It's a little windy today. It's 37 right now. Got up to 56. It'll be about the same tomorrow. Did some more work on the amp and replaced some more parts in it. So it seems to be churning pretty good tonight compared to last night. N4LQ, N4WD in the group.
All right, very good. Good to have you, Bruce. Anybody else want to check in? Call now. Very good. Okay, well, let's see here. I'll make a comment about the open wire line for Tony's sake. I think it is, yeah. Tony, or was it John? I think it's Tony. Yeah, you mentioned running it through the house, and I definitely understand your problem. I'm lucky here. I got the wire coming right in through the wall where the where the shack is here, and the tuner just butts right up against the wall. So no problem. If I was going to do that, the only way to do it right, unless you don't care what things look like, is run coax from the rig all the way outside. And then you're somehow going to have to put a tuner out there to match the system up to the coax. And there's where your expense comes in. You're going to need a tuner one way or the other anyway. And you're going to need a remote tuner. And may I recommend the MFJ 998, because I have been using these things for, I guess, 10 years. I've got a couple of them here, and they just keep on going. And then a nice big 1-to-1 ballon that is right up against the back plug, and no coax at all. Just stick it right into the coax jack and ground, and then connect it directly to the ladder line. And you can't beat the system, but then you got to figure out some way to keep the weather off of it. And they do make an outdoor version, which you could look at. I think Brian has had that version, but he had a little trouble with it, so I think he's kind of given up on it. But the indoor version has worked fine for me, and I've had it outside for probably 5 years in a one of those plastic storage box things outside the cabinet, and it did fine. I just supplied 110 to it and had a little 12-volt power supply out there, and I loved it. So that's how I did it when I was in your situation at a different QTH. Then let's see, with the deal with screen modulation. First thing I want to say is that control carrier is the a control carrier is what screen modulation is. It's a form of control carrier, and after all, it does control the carrier. And the word is almost used interchangeably. And you'll read an article about this transmitter has control carriers, and then in the next sentence it'll say screen modulation. So it's really the same thing, and it's accomplished the same way. And the advantage is you don't need a modulation transformer, and you can modulate the tube with small tubes. The final can be modulated with little tubes because you're modulating a screen, and of course screens have amplification, so you don't need the plate modulator. The disadvantage is that the carrier is run at a very low level, and so you take a transmitter. Well, for example, my DX60 puts out about 50 watts in CW mode, and then when I switch over to screen modulation, my carrier goes down to about 10 watts on a good day. But when I talk, it'll swing on back up to pretty close to 50 watts or even higher. So you're really running the same power on the voice peak, but less carrier, making it harder for people to find you. But if it's done right, especially if you run it through an amplifier, a lot of times nobody even notices the difference between that and plate modulation. And my Amico here, that has both screen and grid modulation, control grid modulation, and screen at the same time, claiming to be better. Plate modulation does the screen and the plate together, usually. So anyway, it's just a little confusing when they throw the term control carrier in there, because when you're operating control carrier, your final amplifier between syllables or between words is operating very inefficiently. It's only putting out about 30% of the power that it could. And then when you talk, of course, the power goes up. Like I said, just about every cheap transmitter had screen modulation. until you got up into the biggies like the DX100s, which you're familiar with. So there you go. Over to you, Tony. And I think I got everything covered here, and I'm anxious to hear that Valiant, Bill, when you get that thing going. That'll be nice. And thanks for the T150 in advance there, Amir. K4QE, N4LQ.
All right. N4LQ in the group, the ever-growing group from K4QE. And I'm not sure if I said it before, but good evening to Brian, and hello to Larry. Welcome aboard. Don't worry about the names and all. Whenever someone joins this group, we all go through the same thing. I'm relatively new myself, so I'm still learning all the names myself. So again, welcome aboard. Hope you'll stick with us. And hello to Billy and Bruce. Good to hear you guys tonight. And Brandon, thank you for asking about Mary Ann. She's doing very well. She had the drainage tubes removed yesterday, and she's in much better spirits now about it. It's alleviated some of the pain that she was having, and she's moving along nicely. So thank you very much once again. And regarding screen modulation, and understand, Steve, I'm not trying to argue what you said. I totally get what you said, and I understand it. But it was my understanding previously that the difference between controlled carrier versus screen modulation was that screen modulation had a steady carrier, but of course the audio is induced on the carrier. But obviously it's not high level plate modulation, and the efficiency is between 25 and 35% as compared to between 65 and 75 with plate modulation. I get all that part. It was my understanding that with controlled carrier, that the carrier actually goes up and down, and that was the difference. But if I'm wrong, then I just learned from it. So, and the only reason I'm really interested in it is because I've heard that screen modulation can have better fidelity than plate modulation, because plate modulation ends up getting it's dependent upon the modulation transformer as to how well it's going to sound. And the modulation transformer can even in some cases introduce some distortion, whereas that doesn't happen with screen modulation. But of course, the disadvantage with screen modulation is that it requires much more careful tuning and adjustment than plate modulation does. But anyway, that's my understanding. I have no practical experience, so I concede that whatever you guys are telling me is what the real thing is. And one of the things that has interested me that I've read about in the recent past is screen modulating a large tube such as a 4400 with a MOSFET as opposed to another tube. So you feed a speech amplifier into a MOSFET, and the MOSFET does the modulating of the screen on the final. So I don't know if you guys have heard about that or read about that or what have you, but that's one of the things I've seen discussed on the amphone.net website, and it's kind of interesting to read about. I know of one person who's attempted it, and that's N2TTS up in New Jersey. He screen modulated several transmitters during his experimentation. He's run various kinds of tubes from 4X150s to 4400s, and he's got lots of pictures and stuff with his website and some interesting things that he does. So anyway, I'll pass it on over to Cliff, WB4NKL in the group from K4QE.
Now, K4QE is WB4NKL. Okay, Tony. Now, those I guess with the MOSFETs, you're doing the same thing except with that instead of a tube on the screen modulation, and they make some MOSFETs that's got all kinds of current and voltage ratings now that you couldn't used to get. So that would be an option on implementing the screen modulation. And I can't add much to what Steve said, but I do know that some rigs, like the Drakes, you notice the modulation a lot more. So I guess you're increasing the power more on those than you are the Heathkits. You can see a lot of meter swing on the Drake rigs. Don't have much more to add here. Hello to Bruce and Larry and Billy. Billy, that Valiant looks good. Somebody's added those handles. It's the only thing that detracts from being original, but I wonder why they decided to put handles on the front of it. That's too bad that they drilled holes for that. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get out. Say 73s. I've got to get up early in the morning and try to make a net for a few minutes, but I've got to head over to Maple Grove to my breakfast there tomorrow, but probably won't leave before 8, so I'll stick around until 8, check in on the net. So we'll catch everybody tomorrow night or in the morning. Go ahead, Brandon. W4GUZ, it's WB4NK, Eau Claire.
Okay, Cliff. Good deal. Sounding good on the DX100. And let me know if you go see Terry. Well, I don't know what I was thinking. Today is nowhere near Friday. It's my weekend, but it's not Friday. So maybe talk to you sometime tomorrow afternoon, but if I hear anything, I'll let you know. And Tony, N2 DTS, Brett. Talked to him a lot more so last winter than this, but he's got several screen modulated transmitters, and they all sound good. So, and pretty good description there, Steve. N3 TBW, Brian, I think you've worked him before, but he's got a matchbox on the outside of his shack, and he runs coax out to it. The small, 275 matchbox, but he runs a T368 through it with no trouble. I was curious about running coax underground and using the center as the feed line for a short distance, like under a driveway. That'd help me out quite a bit here. I could put up another antenna. Hello, Bruce. Good hearing you. I bet you had to wire up every radio and light bar and Federal Q was in the station when in your careers at the fire department. Good hearing you. I think I'm going to get out of here too. Larry, I don't think your call's familiar, but I'm sure we worked a while back, years ago, but good meeting you. Sounding good up here into western North Carolina. I'm in right in between Asheville and Johnson City, Tennessee. So sounding good up here. Name is Brandon. And Brian, yeah, Lord willing, this spring you'll ride on Inspiration Bogart. And I'll have to look up that website that I wrote down here. But wondering if you're keeping up with the Amelia Earhart discovery or possible discovery that they've sunk millions of dollars into. That'd be neat if they did find her plane. So, looking at the picture on the internet of the radar or sonar picture of it, I guess it looks like her plane. Interesting to follow that. So, and Mayor, good deal on your livestock and fowl and all the other hobbies. It sounds like you got a lot going on there. We've got goats and inherited cattle about 5 days a week, so that's about all we can take care of here. Plus 2 dogs, a working dog, try to train her once or twice a week, so stay busy. Keeps me busy. John, funny story on the Red Velvet D104. I think I said this, but Billy, that's a good looking radio. Looking forward to hearing it. I'm going to say 73 and hit the shower. I'll catch most of you in the morning. I guess, John, go ahead. W4JP 73, W4GUZ.
Well, all right, Brandon. Hope you have a good evening, sir. W4GUZ in the group W4JPO, and hello to Billy and Bruce. Hope you guys are doing all right. Yeah, I'd like to get a Terry report maybe tomorrow, and maybe he's eating a little bit better and see maybe a little bit of improvement. I'm going to jump out of here myself, boys. It's pumpkin time, and I got to get up early tomorrow because I got to be at the hospital at 7 a.m. tomorrow to get my once-a-month injections. So I like to get in there, be the first one in and the first one out. So I'm going to say 73, God bless. Have a great evening, guys. I'll be listening for a couple minutes. 73, WF2U, W4JPL.
Roger, W4JPL in the net. This is WF2U. Yeah, very good, everybody. And just in case you're still listening, I also do goats. I forgot to mention. My senior dog has titles on every livestock except for cattle, because I didn't have any opportunity to train him on cattle around here. And the others work goats as well. Anyway, it's separate titles, even if it's the same course, basically. At trials, it's a different certificate. It's different because each livestock has its own title. It's the same level. Anyway, but I love that hog. And the dogs also. So the XYL was very strongly against me getting sheep here. You know, we have the acreage and the pastures and everything, but it would have been a lot of money to change the horse fencing, upgrade it to sheep fencing and all that, and then you need somebody to take care of the animals when you're not here, and only people around here are horse people usually, so that's easy to get. Some of my neighbors was always easy to get somebody in for a few days just to run over and make sure they're fed, watered, and they're okay. But it won't work with sheep here. Anyway, so that's the story. It's actually my time to get out. I have to let the dogs out 15-20 minutes before bedtime. Otherwise, the XYL starts grumbling that the barking outside doesn't let her go to sleep. She's an early sleeper. and hi, Bill. Hi, Billy. It's good to hear you too. Good signal. And Bruce, of course. But I have to bail out. Just so this is my last 73, everybody. And Larry, join us again. It was good to hear people that join us. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. And all those who are going to the Old Friends luncheon tomorrow, we'll see you there. So with that, it goes to Brian 4R. This is WFTU 73. Good night.
Okay, Mir. Very good. WF2U in the group. KN4R. Well, 73s, Mir, and see you tomorrow. And it sounds like you're going to pick Steve up with a T150, so that is terrific. And 73s, Brandon, and Mir, very good on the dog trials and the dog titles, and that whole world. So I like to watch your videos there. So let's see. Talking about dogs, our dog Reese, he's 16-year-old Dotson. And he's kind of on his last legs. We thought he was going to pass away last night. He's got congestive heart failure, and he's on some medicine and all that, but he gets coughing and honking pretty bad. So right now he's okay, but we're just playing it by ear and staying close here. So and once he departs, we're going to hold off a little bit to before we get replacement dogs, and we'll get 2 more Dotsons probably. So good evening, Billy. You sound good, and can't wait to hear the Valiant. And I'm very sorry about the vertigo. I had a spell of that a few years ago, and learned how to reset my head, but it didn't really work too good, and it's not like night and day. It just took about a month or 2 for it finally to go away. So, but at least it has. Let's see. And Bruce, very good on working on an amp. I want to know what kind of amp it is. And Steve was talking about the MFJ 998 tuner. It's got a user interface. It's got buttons, and you can turn it on and off. The problem with the remote, the MFJ 998 RT, which I do have, is it's got a waterproof cover, and you can't see or get to any of the buttons and all that. So all you can do is turn it off. It has a power injector where it supplies 12 volts to the coax, and that seems to be the weak point. And if the coax is too long, it doesn't seem to work. And the problem is you really can't tell what's going on. So, and I can certainly take the cover off of it and use it like a regular MFJ 998 here in the shack, but I haven't really been doing that much. And as far as the ladder line, MFJ does make that through window, put in your window. Rectangle has 3 or 4 coax through connectors, but it also has a ladder line as well. So that might be a more temporary solution. So, and let's see, as far as Amelia Earhart, been following it, and the problem is the sonar looks like a MiG. It looks like a swept wing fighter, and that's probably what it is. Rick Gillespie, who's the head of Tiger, which is another group that's been looking for Amelia for 35 years, he says that there's no way that the wings of her Electra could be bent back in that fashion because it had this huge beam that went through that part of the through the aircraft from one engine to another, and he said you're not bending that. So anyway, $11 million is pretty amazing. I think all the hubbub is probably in an attempt to help justify spending the $11 million, and also to kind of set the stage for a return to try to, visually see what kind of plane it is. And apparently the automatic AUV they were using, the robot autonomous vehicle. It had a camera, but it wasn't working. So all they got was sonar data. So anyway, let's see. I guess I pass it over to Billy. And sorry about the long transmission. That's not like me. And I'm sure I missed something I wanted to say, but that's okay. KO4SSY in the group, KN4R.
Is Larry still in there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Larry. My problem. K3LQB to take it in the group, KN4R.
KN4R. I think is your name Tom?
My name is Brian. Brian is Kilowatt November 4, Romeo.
Okay, well, I'm terrible with names. KN4R, Brian. Okay, fine. K3LQB. I won't hold it here long, but it was nice allowing me to break in here again. I didn't realize the group was fairly large, and I used to listen to, and I believe you call yourself the Old Friends. There was a station, and I know I'm way behind the times here, but I used to hear a K4, and I used to talk to them on 40 meter AM a lot. But this could be as much as 10 years ago. I don't think it was that before. He used to run the Sunday version on 75 in the morning, I think it was, of Old Friends. He was heavy into the call and stuff. I'm sure you guys probably know him. I cannot remember the rest of his call or the name, but I wondered what has happened to him, if he's still with us or whatever. I was meaning to ask someone that, who would know him, and then this group here was came to mind as soon as I heard it. That was one of the reasons why I broke in. Let's see, I don't have much more to say here, so let me turn it over to Steve right now, and I'll probably stick around for one more. N4LQ, K3LQB.
Yeah, okay. Larry, I think that's probably K4DEE, Jim. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's him.
All right, he's still alive. He's no longer hamming, but he's in kind of bad shape, and so I haven't seen him for quite a while. Go ahead, Bill.
All righty. Well, I'm gonna get out of here and get in the bed. I got to get up early in the morning to do month-end stuff. So, anyways, everybody have a good evening, and I doubt I'll be around in the morning, so most likely not. I might get up early enough to get done before time to chat, but most likely I won't be around. So anyway, 7-3 here, over to you, Bruce. N4WD, KO4SSY clear.
Okay, Billy. N4WD. All right, let's see. Larry, Woodstock. Do you ever run into N4DRV? Sam? He lives down there in a hole somewhere. I finally coerced him into fixing his HF wig, so he's learning how to reprogram it since he hadn't used it since 7000. Yeah, Nikon 7000. He's learning how to reprogram it. It's been so long since I used it. Real quick. If you're still around, Bert. Okay, I guess he's gone. Well, I'll say 73s too. Everybody have a good rest of the day and a good start to tomorrow. Maybe the weather will be with us again. And since we got the amp going, we'll see if we can get up early enough in the morning to check in. I tell you, I have to put all them parts and stuff in it, and the other tubes, I ain't never seen the meters act as good as they do. So, everybody have a good one. We'll say 7-3s. We'll turn it back to Steve. N4LQ, N4.
Still listening, Bruce. I'd flip the transmitter off. It's WB4NKL.
Okay. What was that linear you're selling?
Warrior.
Say again?
Warrior. I forget the model number of it, but it's a Warrior.
Oh, man. That is a boat anchor. Okay, that's all I needed. Back to you, Steve. N4LQ, N4WD.
Okay, real good. A Warrior. That's a pretty heavy transmitter, or a heavy amplifier, I should say. Let's see. I think that's everybody has flown the coop except for Tony. You still there, Tony? I think Mir's still there. Are you still here, Mir?
I'm still here.
I'm still here.
Okay, I recognize Brian and Tony's still here. I think Mir left. He has to take care of his dogs, 9 dogs. Okay, I guess we control carrier. Well, yeah, screen grid modulation. It's controlling the carrier. I mean, it's modulating the carrier. It makes it go up and down. That's what it is. So, if you get on the internet and say, what is the difference between the two? Don't think you're going to get a very good answer, because it's kind of an interchangeable term. Like I said, the Drake, that thing, in the separates, the Drake twins, the T4X R4 twins, they're using, they're modulating the driver before the final. And yeah, so it takes its little swing and turns it into a big one, and it's pretty obvious on that. I don't think I've ever heard one that I like. But the T4, the TR4 transceiver, it modulates the screen of the final, and it doesn't sound too bad. So I think you can tell a big difference when you listen to them. So the TR4 is more what I think of as screen grid modulation, instead of trying to amplify the driver. They're using sweep tubes in the final, and those are not too good for AM anyway, because they don't like running at a constant carrier. Anyhow, let's see. Go ahead, Tony. K4QE, N4LQ.
All right, Steve. Real good. Yeah, I never really considered screen modulation until relatively recently. I'd always, I'm very familiar with how plate modulation works and the various types of plate modulation, Heising modulation, and so on. But I had never really considered screen modulation until recently, when I saw the experiments that Brett was doing. So I'm not as familiar with it, but I appreciate the education. So very good. Well, I'm going to get out of here myself. It was great hearing everyone tonight, and glad that Larry could join us tonight. I hope you'll continue to do so. And I hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night. I'm not sure if Cliff is still here or not, so I'll swing it over to him in case he is. WB4NKL from K4QE.
Was Brian still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll take it. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and say 73s as well. I have enjoyed it, and lots of great topics tonight, and a lot of great participation as well. So, Larry, come back, and appreciate you being in there, and keep up the good work. And start at 8 o'clock each night here. Steve calls the net. So I'll say 73s, and Steve, we'll see you between 9 and 9:15 tomorrow, with or without John, if he shows up or not. So over to you, Larry, for 73 K3LQB, KN4R 73.
It's 10 and 10:15, right?
K3LQB, fine. C73 stations left. I'm still trying to put this together here. A couple of things I wanted to comment on. Steve, DWE, that was, I just forgot his name again. I'm terrible with names, but anyways, it seemed that happened. I know he had some health problems even when I was talking to him. I wonder what happened to all the Drake, all the calling stuff. Has he sold it? I mean, he had a lot of stuff there, and I was just curious as to what happened to it. And a comment on the screen modulation. I have a Drake Twins that I had electrically restored. The outside was clean. This was a prior employee of Drake. And as far as I know, he didn't do any modifications. But he might have done something that wasn't considered a modification, but it was maybe a change in a particular circuitry or something like that. It still had the original. It still has the original audio, the received audio board in it, which is terrible. But I do run the audio circuit through a external amplifier, and that with a clip speaker, and it really sounds quite good for a T4XC, that is. But what I wanted to say is the T4XC that matches it. I always realized that and have heard the Drakes on AM. It just did not sound very good whatsoever. A lot of fluctuation. I tried mine, and to my dismay, mine does not have any fluctuation in the carrier. I tune it. In fact, they don't. They're very. What I want to say here. Well, they just don't tell you much about AM as far as how to tune it. They just tell you go to AM and you should peak the plate current that's showing. It might be 75 mils. No more than 150. When I go to AM, mine goes to about 100 to 110 mils, and I do keep a fan on top of my tweaks and the T4XC. And there's if you look at the carrier, the output, it might wiggle a little bit like a plate modulated signal, but there is no fluctuation in the carrier per se. I can get near 4 times audio peaks from the carrier, and it sounds like plate modulated AM. Don't know why it puts out that type of AM signal, but it does. And I've never made any modifications myself, so I just thought I'd add that. I was quite surprised. I use a Electric Voice 630 dynamic with it, with a little bit of help of a EQ Plus, and it sounds quite good. I've been surprised. So over to you there, Steve. N4LQ, K3LQB.
Okay, yeah, real fine, Larry. I'm glad you're happy with that. And no, I don't pretend to understand it, but whatever you say. And Brian, if you're still listening, I think you bet 10 and 10-15, okay?
Yeah, Roger. I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
Okay. Well, we can find a place for you here. That's all right. And I think John is kind of, he said he wanted to come, so I guess we'll be ready for him. All right. Well, guys, thanks a lot for checking in. It's been a good evening. 73s to everybody. This is N4LQ officially closing the Old Friends Neck. Good night.
73, Steve.
K3LQB N4WD.
N4WD, K3LQB. Could you just hold on a second? Let me check my tuning here. I am not peaking the way I should here. Just hold on a second. Hello, Ted. There we go now. Okay. There we go. Now I might have a little bit more audio. N4WD, I think it is. K3LQB. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Larry. Whereabouts are you down in Woodstock? Woodstock?
Wiley Bridge Road. Do you know where that's off 92?
Okay, I'm trying to remember where Sam lives. N4LQ's down that way, and like I was saying, we just badgered him to getting his HF rig back repaired and back on the air. So he's got a vertical mounted, got his coax, but he ain't got it hooked up yet, and he's using it on 2 meters when I talked to him last today. Icom 7000. So I'll have to look to see where he's at. And But he lives down a gully down there somewhere in a subdivision of some kind. Call him. Look it up here.
Incidentally, what was your name again?
My name or his name?
Oh, your name.
My name is Bruce. Bravo Romeo Uniform Charlie Echo.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. So I'll try to keep that in my memory here. The only ham that I know of that's close by, and I know there's a lot of them, but if you go down the Wiley Bridge, I'm not that far off 92, maybe a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. You go just a little further, there's a person that has a beam that's not that high. It's right there on Wiley Bridge. From me, I don't know, maybe it could be a half a mile on the right side there. Might that be who you're speaking of?
He lives in one of them restricted neighborhoods. So the only thing he's got up right now is a vertical, multi-band vertical. 2440 on the Chimley